The Becoming Flame podcast broadcasts pure, unfiltered power exchange that stokes the flame of your being. Because it's time to remember. It's time to return. It's time to become flame. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Becoming Flame podcast. I'm your host, Kait Tregenza, and today we have an amazing guest for you. Her name is Melody Lubin. She is a woman devoted to the living body, not aesthetic, not Instagram, like as a site of truth. Her work is all about feminine embodiment, desire, erotic intelligence, and leadership that is shaped from the inside out. She holds a vision for a world where humans are deeply embodied in their humanity, in their feeling body, in their sexuality, in their erotic intelligence, and in kind, compassionate, and intelligent relating to each other. She speaks a lot about what happens for a woman's body when she engages in sexual intercourse, sexual relationship in general, how women are attuned to whomever and whatever is in their body, and what that actually means, in terms of living feminine embodiment. She knows a lot about the science, about the anatomy, about the energetics, and she works to bring that all together to fulfill really a mission of seeing women in their absolute power, not power over, not power taken, but true feminine power of community, of togetherness, of coherence with nature. And so I couldn't think of a better guest for this podcast than Melody. And I love that she's so willing to go to the places all of us need to go to in order to become this embodied being. But she speaks about the rawness of that. She speaks about her ability to do this work in devotion, and devotion meaning going the places you don't necessarily feel happy, sunshine, and rainbows. So her work in sensation, in eros, in parts of womanhood, she's very aware that they're not meant to be tidy or easily digestible. And she doesn't teach from theory. She goes into these places in her body and she teaches from what has been metabolized. She talks about nervous system connections, from where the vagus nerve is connected from behind the throat all the way into the cervix. And she talks about that relationship between throat and sexual power. Melody is this wealth of knowledge, and I'm so excited for this conversation. I don't think this conversation is going to be like purely about feminine energy as a concept. I really want to talk to her, and I really want to get into what happens when a woman actually stays in the moment, does the work, doesn't leave, doesn't flee, doesn't freeze, doesn't fight, stays, holds it, being in her body, in her wanting, in her truth, even when it costs her comfort, approval, certainty, and sometimes even the old identity that she thought she was. And Melody's been through it. So I'm hoping that this conversation really can unlock something for each and every listener who is building their life from rupture and back into rapture. That's my gift today. And I know that Melody's up for the challenge. So without further ado, welcome, Melody. So welcome to the podcast, Melody. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're getting your podcast. Is morning for Melody and I. So
yeah, good morning. Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Welcome back down under. How does it feel?
Oh, it feels so good, like being able to have my feet on the earth. I remember just before I came, I was messaging my friends here saying like, barefoot life is a thing and I crave it. And so it feels good to have my feet on the earth and the sun shining and access to the ocean every day. Yeah, it feels really medicinal.
I think it's really interesting when I became a mother, the choices that you make for your own personal life, for example, making sure that your feet are on the earth every day, making sure that you're in nature every day, being in this coherence with nature as much as you can. It's
Mm.
interesting, this concept of people are allowing adults to do kind of whatever they want, but all of a sudden you don't let you don't put shoes on your child, or you don't do these kinds of things, and you're a bad mother, or you're a bad parent. And I find the reflection that I've had in terms of like the work that I've done, and the unfolding and the unraveling that I've done to come back into a harmonic sort of rhythm of life, kind of living outside of time, living outside of rules and structures and things, that when you have a child, people become very, very upset that you don't raise your child within the constructs of what is so-called normal. And it's this extra deeper unraveling of, for at least for me personally, of why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, why am I living this way? And I know that you've been through, in your own version of that, not just a questioning, but a really defiant, values-based way of living. I'm so curious,
Mhm.
like, how, first of all, like, what led you to really question every aspect of your life? How did you decide, what you're going to choose to be? I mean, huge question, but we've got an hour to fill, so see what you can do with that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's I've really been reflecting on this because I went on a date this week, and I just got to witness how not normal I am. How, just like how I am not normal at all.
Melody,
Uh,
yes, I do know. I do know.
And I have to be honest, like, there's a part of me sometimes that's just like, oh, can't I just be normal? And like, can't
Yeah.
just normal things work for me? And can I not just fit into this box that feels like sometimes like everybody that's in the box has this, and I'm not dissatisfied at all. I'm deeply satisfied. I'm deeply content. My days are filled with so much love and resonance, and like, I adore what I get to do every day, and I love that I get to wake up in the morning and go for a walk on the beach, and like that's my life. And then I get to serve this work that is, it just, it has an isness to it. It's
Mhm.
not there's no pretense around it. I'm not like putting on a suit every day and dressing myself up to be something that I'm not. I just get to exist as me. And so I'm deeply satisfied within that. And I also acknowledge that who I am and how I live is not the norm. And
Mm.
sometimes I'm like, oh, something about normality would probably be great. Something about just, and I don't even want to say settling, but yeah. But coming to the conclusion that I am not normal and that I really want to live a value-based life. What are my values? And getting really honest with that. My values are nature. My values are radical self-expression, it's integrity, it's honesty. And so what is that going to require of me? Well, it's going to require me to live in alignment with all of these things. Like, who am I and how am I expressing? And am I being honest in my expression? And then how does my life reflect that? And creating that for yourself, and I think this is something that people really underestimate, it's a long journey. You don't just wake up one day and your life looks and feels like it's yours. It's like an everyday relationship of what do I need to adjust
Yeah.
so I can live a life that is truly mine. Because I think that's the thing, right? It's like we're conditioned to live lives that aren't ours, and that we should want things that we don't actually want.
100%.
And so then when we start getting honest with ourselves and it's like, well, I don't want that and I don't want that, and no's are important. Like, no's, knowing your no, if this is not what I want, is just as important, and if not more important than your yes. Yes is easy. Yes is like, yes, we all know we want these big things and like to live a particular life, but are we willing to say no to everything that isn't that?
See, I have an interesting kind of journey on that yes, no, is that I got
Mm.
really good at saying no.
Oh, yeah.
Then cleared everything out. And this is what I like about you saying, it takes a long time to create the life, like decades, like sometimes an entire life, right? Because you might get to a certain level of truth where you think you're really in alignment, you're really in truth. And then as long as you keep doing that process, you keep clearing out because then you're working on societal beliefs, then you're working on familial, then you're working on your own self of like the things you thought that you wanted, that you thought you were being truthful about, that you were thought you were honest about with yourself. You find a deeper, more coherent version of honesty that requires, again, a radical shift into, okay, maybe that's not what I want. Maybe that's not who I am. And I think that the no has a different approach at every stage that you're at. When you're first learning to say no, yeah, it can feel really hard. But then as you get like further on and it's like there's nothing left to get rid of, you actually yeah, that's the part that actually the work begins. It's like all the surface level stuff that's like, I've changed my life. It's like, no, but now who are you? Because if you're
Totally.
labeling yourself, if you've got an identity there, if you're saying I'm a this job or I'm a this label, look there.
Yeah, totally. And I think often, you know, my teacher, she calls this path the path of loss. She was like, it's
Mm,
a path of loss. We're continuously letting go. We gather things and then we let go, and we gather things and then we let go, and we're keeping refining so that we're not gathering too much. But also that no, and this was something that I had to really journey. A lot of my no came from survival.
yeah,
And so actually learning to say yes, like I want a bigger life, I want to show up for a bigger life, I want to have a bigger life, I want to say yes to this experience and journey this. A lot of that was me meeting my survival body,
yeah,
because the no is so easy. It's the protection, right? And
right,
again, this is where we have to see where is the yes or the no coming from,
yeah,
because where
yeah,
my no might be coming from is different to somebody else's where they're yes. And I do think that it changes, right? It's like once you move out of the survival body, it's much easier to say yes, but then that yes has to be so honest,
mm. It's
because
not
then
coherent,
we just
then
end
it
up
comes from the
picking
line.
up things. Say that
Yeah,
again.
because if that yes is not coming from that coherence, that place of
Totally.
truth, then you're fooling yourself
Totally.
again and saying yes to something. Because I've experienced the difference between a head-based trauma and a body, like a whole body, whole life desire. The kind of desire that there are no choices, there are no different pathways, you know what I mean? Like, they're not yours. It's so much bigger than you, and it's like, if you're choosing yes to something else that's not that, your life desire will wait for you to come back to it. But all of those
Totally.
yeses end up in nos. They always do.
Totally. And I always say, like, the path is here, and we're like going off and coming back,
Yeah.
and then we might take a little detour and then we come back, but we're always being called back.
Yeah.
And then I also believe, the way that I teach desire is like it really holds intelligence. It's like keys to doors that are locked in our soul, and it's literally our soul path. It's communication from way higher intelligence. So my desire to go and live in a certain place is because it holds specific keys for my personal journey, the things that I need to unlock in my system and have my growth through that particular journey, because I'm going to meet that person who's going to introduce me to this person who's going to take me there. And it's very specific. It's not random. And we need to stop believing that it's random.
And we
It's
still
like
need to
it
stop believing AI as well, because you've got a much more powerful AI system inside of you.
Totally. It's divine intelligence. That's what it is. It's like a GPS, right? It's like telling you turn right, now turn left, take the second right, that kind of thing. And it's like that relationship with that desire has honestly been one of my life's biggest initiations. But that's why I can't exist as like normal.
Yeah. I know that people have these places that they go between the hours of 9 to 5 every day, and then they come home, and then you get, like, these pieces of paper that you can use as tokens to buy stuff with and fill your houses up. It seems, I don't know, easy. You got the manual.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even about ease. It's just about like, there's something, sometimes I feel like my soul desires feel complicated, you know, and
Okay.
like inconvenient. They ask me to pack up my life and move to these different places. And I'm like, okay, again, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think I've lived now in, I don't know, 7 countries and at least 1,000,000,000 houses.
Yeah.
But it's not, and it's
Yeah.
interesting because for my body system, that's not exhausting.
No,
And I
no.
find that
I
really
think
interesting. When you're doing the things that are supposed to be done for you, your body doesn't find those things exhausting. But the moment that you're trying to do the safe option that's not designed for you, I have experienced deep fatigue in those moments.
totally. And I think also people move very quickly when they still have a lot of survival in their system, and that can be exhausting. It's like
Right.
really need to be vital to be able to follow your soul's path, right? It's like it's energetically expanding you and physically expanding you and spiritually expanding you. And so there is a level of resource that's required. Um, for me anyway, how I wanna live and like, you know, I'm not prepared to compromise my standards of how I live.
So talk to me about that. How do you approach that? Because you have a very unique way of moving and living in the world, connected to eros, connected to feminine embodiment. What does that mean in a practical sense? Because I think so many people think of femininity as this passive, flowing in the wind. If it comes, it'll be like people say, it is what it is. There's this very like strange acceptance that you have to, being in the feminines is actually more about accepting your lot in life as opposed to creating something, which is very unique perspective. And I don't know where that came from, but for me, the creator, the ultimate creator, is feminine.
Mm.
I don't know a man who has birthed a baby yet. That's just the obvious example, but every other aspect of femininity for me is ultra creative. But then when we think about business, and then when we think about creating commerce or economic value, it's all about productivity, efficiency, hustle, grind. Please, I'm so fascinated with how you approach this, embody this, and live this way.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm really passionate about women, but also myself. This is the journey that I've gone on, but women having a business that supports their feminine system. And I think, you know, um, we've been modeled hustle and push and grind and do all these things, et cetera, et cetera. And then the counter of that, it's like when we've got these internal out of alignment energetics, it's like, oh, I just want to flow and I just want to show up every now and then. And and that's not sustainable. If you want to be making like 20K a year, you could probably get away with it at that. But if you actually want to be building wealth, you're going to
Right.
need to integrate a part of you to help you like get deeper in your commitment. And the really beautiful thing about this, Kate, is that it is energetic. It doesn't require you to push, force, hustle, like really show up consistently, blah, 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 blah. It just asks you to get really honest about your internal landscape and where are you not meeting what's being asked of you. Because when you start to meet what's being asked of you, organically, it's going to expand into a place that stretches your capacity. So you don't have to go into overdrive to make it work. You don't have to force things to make it work. You have to listen. You have to listen and say, yes, I'm willing to be, because the way that I see feminine work and the way that I teach it is like, I'm a conduit for spirit. I'm responding to what spirit is asking of me to do in this life. And I think that's one of the biggest things. And this is why desire is such an important aspect, because it's like, if I'm not doing what I'm actually here to do, it's like pushing up like a heavy cart up a hill. It's just the same as putting on a suit and going to work a 9 to 5. It's still a mask. It's
Actually, it's
still
harder
pretend.
because now you're not getting either world.
Totally, totally.
You're gonna
And
be
I
in a
think
feminine
that's
space, and then you're, like, in struggle and homelessness as opposed to just going and being back in the system that you don't so neither system is supporting you when you're not embodied.
totally. And I've gone from like not being able to pay my rent and not being able to purchase groceries. Like I've done that journey. And now I have a thriving and continuously growing 6-figure business that I adore. And like I wake up every single day and it fills me. And a lot of that is I was always very clear of the direction that I was going. That was not necessarily, um, obviously, it was a journey to get there, but it was also very clear.
Mm.
But a lot of that was internal energetics. I had complete delusion over what running a business was going to be.
In a good way or a
No,
bad
not in a good way, in a fantastical I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna live on the beach in Bali, and I'll do 1 session a day," and all of this kind of stuff, and I was like, "Oh, that is not gonna sustain me at all to live the life that I wanna live." I wanna live like wealth is one of my highest values, but that's something that only became a value for me over the last couple of years,
Was there
and
an
then I was like,
embarrassment or a shame or something in claiming wealth as your value? Hmm.
100% a shame, and also just not a deep enough relationship with what, wealth can bring me to actually be able to do what I wanna do, like how it could support me to create what I wanna create. I always saw it as really self-serving, and then I realized that and this I've had a deep initiation through money and a really reorientation of my relationship with it. But like to be able to create what I want to create, I require resources to be able to do that. And as I said, I'm not prepared to drop my standards of how I want to live to do my work. And I don't believe that as women, we have to.
No. So, the moment that this shifted for you, how many months, how many years, like, how many days? What's the time period? Can't pay rent, you can't pay groceries, like, how long are you allowing yourself to live in that space? Let's get the context first.
Yeah, so a lot of it happened for me during COVID. So it was kind of like this. I was a fitness instructor at the time, so I've been self-employed for many years. And I the studios closed. I was actually in Melbourne at the time, and that was kind of my shift into running a business. And yeah, when I think there's a really powerful initiation for people to understand what happens when you are like unable to meet your basic requirements. And it's a powerful initiation. I just don't recommend it. I'm
What do
like,
you
you don't have to do
mean by
that.
initiation in that moment? Because I think a lot of people will just go, "Oh my god, shit's hit the fan. I'm, like, in frantic mode." So how did you take that and turn it into a initiation? Because I'm I'm thinking about everybody who's listening to this and going, "That's not an initiation, that's poverty. That's, like, craziness." So how did you go from, "Okay, I'm up Shit's Creek," into, "This is an initiation"? Because that's a powerful choice.
Totally. Well, it just got me really clear. How badly do I want this? Like,
Right.
how badly do I want to create something for my life from what I know that I'm here to do? And what am I prepared to do to have that?
Mm.
So it was like a buckle on down and get really serious about like, um, you know, I wasn't prepared to do things for free at that time. And I was like, all my entitlement stuff of where I was actually kind of really at the beginning of running a business. It's like, no, 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 it makes sense to do things for free to get my work out there, you know? And then how do I offer things for free to then be able to convert things? And I think it made me get really savvy of how am I going to make this work? I don't have any money, but I need a mentor. I cannot do this alone. So how am I going to make that work? What do I need to do so that I can make these things work for myself? What are the agreements that I need to come? Who do I need to borrow money off of? How do I need to set myself up? Like, it was a really big initiation of me, of not just like cruising and flowing. It was like, what do I need so that this can work? Who can help support me for the next 4 months? And how can I figure out a way to pay them back? How can I bring a mentor on board? What are the things that are going to anchor me? And it was like a nothing else matters. Every distraction was not available to me. This was the sole focus.
Yeah.
And it was just a time for me to really hone in.
Did you have this as part of your personality before? Is this part of your character?
I would say I'm quite driven. Yeah, for sure.
So you
Yeah,
had
I'm
that resource already?
what the internal drive.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. I have an yeah, definitely have an internal drive. I have like career is quite a high value for me,
Got
and
it.
not in the sense of like building a career, more as in like I have a lot of vision, and I
Mm,
really am invested in bringing that vision to life.
love it.
And I think we spoke about this the other day. It's like, what does it require to pull it from the ether into the physical? And I think this is one of the things that a lot of feminine work really lacks, is
Mm,
that it is so focused on flow and creativity and inspiration. But if your creativity and your inspiration is massive, which mine is, you also need to have a big anchor to pull that through, because otherwise it's just ideas.
okay. I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep
So
going
in
to the
answer to your
yeah.
question,
Yeah, go ahead.
it was a year that I was, like, on the floor for. Yeah,
Okay.
really
I think that's
struggling
useful for
financially.
people to know, right? It's not like one day you went to the grocery store and you're like, I can change it all. So this is a deep journey for you. So that's why you call it an initiation, because it was a underworld kind of darkness of like, what the actual am I gonna do?
Yeah, and it's like some of the deepest you don't just get given a business. Not in the spiritual. If you're doing a spiritual business, you don't just get handed, like, "Here's your six-figure business overnight just because 'cause you're gifted." Like, the whole point in business is that it is an initiation, and this is why so many people don't make it through the 2 years, because everyone would be doing it. It's like shadow work on crack. It's asking for
Okay,
your
we're gonna
full
go step by step
devotion.
through this because this is so juicy. What you're doing is so juicy and it mirrors my experience so strongly. So I wanna like pull as much gold out of our
Yes.
two combined journeys because I think it's so valuable. Um, okay, so you're in this place of I don't know how to live for a year. Did you just live off savings at that time, or you were borrowing money and everything? Okay.
Both
So
of those, yeah.
so when you're talking about initiations and when you're talking about sitting in that discomfort, how did you personally do that?
It was a lot of sitting in discomfort and, like, feeling a lot of, the parts of me that felt helpless, and it was funny because I was, like, trying to get waitressing jobs and things at the time, and it just wasn't happening, and I just
In
felt like I
COVID
was
with
just being.
restaurants closed.
Yeah, yeah, I was living in Byron at the time, so they did have restaurants open, but
Okay,
that was so out of alignment, you
right.
know? And I was being asked to really refine my alignment, and yeah, um it felt like stretching my edges of the level of discomfort that I could handle and be present with. And I started to understand, like, oh, this isn't going to be an easy journey. It doesn't matter how gifted I am or how much magic I have or how much medicine I have. It's actually a completely different skill to be able to bring something into the physical form again. So it just felt like I was being stretched in all the exact right places. And it was a lot of tears and it was a lot of tantrums and it was a lot of like nearly wanting to stop and quit and all those things. And just like, should I just give up? And I think that's something again about these soul Like, it's like we can go off, but we're always gonna be called back, and I could just feel where I was continuously being called back. My vision is so much bigger than me. It's been, like, such a humble journey of, like I was listening to something the other day. He's a Kabbalah teacher. His name's David something, I can't remember his surname, and he was saying, "The thing about vision is that you have to be okay with somebody else doing it."
Mm,
Like, that's what true service is, and that's exactly how I feel. It's like there's some visions that I am not prepared and not ready to bring through yet, so how can I support and serve those visions
you're
that
right.
share the vision that I have? How can I be a part or, like, support somebody else's vision to bring that into life? And I'm very clear that I have, like, a very specific role in this lifetime, and a lot of it has been me being and, like, getting on board and accepting what my role is.
Yeah.
Like, I accept the assignment, like, that kinda thing.
I think when you have somebody who's capable, someone who's intelligent, someone who has an education in the, tangible sense, as well as a life education, someone who can see a lot and can see the world that, could be and should be, and if we all banded together would be. There's a challenge in that of being like, and this comes back to the conversation on yes and no. There's a challenge on that of being, but I do this part. I could do that. I am capable of doing that. My hands work, my mind works. I'd get more money that way, or it would be an easier path that way. And that knowledge of who you are here to be and who you contribute to, you can't fail in it, because what will happen is you'll just keep meeting dead ends. But what happens in when you're not listening is that you go down a lot of dead ends and you get a lot of, rerouting back to the place. And it's not about judgment of, you know, doing it quicker or faster or anything. It's about, as soon as you learn to listen and as soon as you can tune into your specific note, your specific coordinate, like I call it the one thread on the tapestry that you are. You're not the entire tapestry. There's 8 billion people here. You're one thread. Where do you place your thread to have the greatest, impact and fulfillment? That's the that's the work, right? How did so gonna go back to this. You're looking at waitressing, you're not going, no, no, no. I'm here for this. I'm here for this reason. My vision is big. How do you translate it
Mhm.
physically? You've got this knowledge, but it's not in the physical yet. That's the part,
Mhm.
threshold that everybody's wanting to cross. How did you personally do it?
I got really honest with myself about where I wasn't committed and devoted.
Mm,
Yeah, I think a lot of it is like really honest inquiry of where do I say that I want these things, but I am not either A, that person, B, showing up for that, C, devoted, D, committed. Like, where is there a lack of resonance between? And the thing is I always had this idea of myself that I was committed.
mhm,
And I always had this and I actually say this a lot to my students, like my vision and what I'm creating isn't necessarily what you're here to create. And like, do you want an empire? Do you want to be a leader, and why? What part of you is
right,
leading that to believe that you should be this kind of person? And I think that's the reorientation that is really required of us at this time, is that it's not about our ideas of who we are and what we should have. It's the internal communication system of is that actually mine to live out?
right.
Why do I see myself as a leader of this work? Why do I think that I should be running this thing? Why do I want to have an empire? And like, am I actually willing to work the amount of hours that it requires to have that? and like getting really honest with ourselves. And that was part of my initiation of, okay, cool. So I'm saying that I'm wanting to create all these things and I have all this vision, but who am I in the willingness to serve that? And where is it just an idea of who I think I could be?
Mm,
Where does it not match?
mm,
And this is what embodiment is. And this is what we're lacking deeply in this industry at the moment, is so much of it is talk. And there isn't actually enough people truly living it and
yeah.
devoting in a way that asks for a hell of a lot of humility.
Mm.
Mm.
What were the kinds of questions that you even knew to ask when you say radical honesty and being in that moment? I myself have felt in certain parts of life that I'm being honest only to discover that I wasn't. But I feel like those things revealed themselves through events as opposed to knowing how to formulate that question.
Yeah, it's funny. I had this idea of myself that I was really committed, and it was like part of my identity. I was like, oh, I'm such a committed person. Like it was fully my identity. And then I was being worked with something, and I was like, I am not committed at all. Like that is just a fantastical idea that I have about myself. And there is nothing in my reality that shows that is like tangible evidence that I'm a committed person. And so I think a lot of it is like, how willing are we to have the reflection of life? And I think, um, that I spoke earlier about like that being stretched by what was being asked of me at the time. And I think that is part of the carving of our becoming. And that's the part that we run from. And I
Mhm.
think also that's why it's such a like unique and intimate journey, is because like I know my own vision, I feel it and I see it and I experience it, and you know your own vision, and like we can learn each other and have a sense of where each other's are going, but really it's a journey of honesty with self.
Right.
Because I can have women come to me and they can say that they know and experience their journey, and I might not feel that for them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't true for them to manifest that.
Yeah. Okay. One of the things that I'm really picking up in the energy that you bring to this conversation as well is because there is a ruthlessness to you in that in the kindest most loving way, but the parts of me, and if you're willing to feel that back in the love that you give, there are already parts of me where I'm like, I don't know if that aspect of my life is as true as I think it is. And so what
Mm.
I love about you is the codes that you actually share are are so impersonal. You don't care. You don't care if I do what I do or if I don't. It's like the codes I have available to me, feel them and get ruffled or be on your way. Is it something that is just innate to you, like, or you had to activate this within yourself and now you share? Is that part of your work of sharing it? You're laughing, so I think it's a good
Um, yeah, I'm just like I really value truth and I
Mm,
really value authenticity, and like I want the people in my field to thrive. That's one thing that I don't want I want them to all have the things. Like some of them come to me broke and all of this kind of stuff, and I'm like, I want to support you. Like let's get you, but I will not support you to build something that isn't fully yours to have in this lifetime, because all that ends up happening is that it comes down anyway. The thing that I serve is truth, and so it's like my work is really about women being able to see where they're not living that, and like it's not out here. It's like your vision and your dream can be as big as we want, but it has to come from here. And
You
so there's no point
hold it
us
when it's open.
living out here. Exactly, yeah, I'm touching my heart and, like, holding my system, because it has to come from this place, and then, it's like the path reveals and, like, comes from the body, as
Yeah.
opposed to it coming from out there and us trying to get there. It's that it's actually coming from the body and from the heart, and we're listening, and we're taking each step until we, like, blow past the vision that we even had for ourselves, and we've got something bigger and more honest and more aligned. Does that make sense?
Of course. So
Yeah.
two things that happened for me were, and I'm interested if this was something that you went through as well. Sometimes when you get really aware of who you are, your truth, your mission, and when that business is gifted to you. I think it's very different for people who come up with an idea of a business and then they try to enact on it. So I feel like you and I are having a conversation about, we were initiated, our businesses were gifted to us. We learned through the process of opening the business, oh my God, I'm so perfect for this. This is exactly what I've always wanted. Oh my God. Oh, and then you expand into being the leader and the owner and the custodian. I like to call it, I'm a custodian of this business, because this business wasn't created
Yeah.
by me, but I was appointed its custodian or its guardian or its growth agent, whatever you want to say. It's my same approach to parenting. I happen to be the conduit to this child. I am not her mother. I am her custodian on this earth. She is far superior to me in intelligence and all of the things. And I am learning from her, not the other way around. And if I were to mother her, she would dampen. And so if I were to be the CEO of this business, it would dampen. And so I
Yes.
I've had to go through this process of, how do I get big enough or stable enough or solid enough to hold this, as
Mhm.
it's also been the one that found me. I don't know if there are women who can just like come into this life-changing business from this, like, I'm on top of the world, this is great. Like, I've never met them. I hope that there are, because I want to learn from them one day. But it's always, at least in my personal experience, it is always, everything falls apart. You are on the floor. You are in complete rupture. You are like, what am I going to do now? You become the person open enough to receive the vision that you finally like stopped and
Mm.
slowed long enough to give time, silence, and space to receive. Then as
Mm.
the business raises you up to be the CEO or the founder or the whoever, you're raising yourself up with this business. My my uh my expansion of self has never been bigger or more solid than when I went through this initiation in this way. How did
Mhm.
you get schooled in power or in solidity or in the physical vessel of holding this? Like, that's you don't talk from here, right? I can hear you. When I feel you talking is very low.
Mm.
How did that happen? Like, you going from like, I can't pay my rent, to I'm like, I'm solid, I'm good here. There's a lot of steps in between this these two parts of the story. Take us slowly
Yeah.
through this.
Yeah. Beautiful. What you just spoke to there, Kate, is like the way that I relate to. And, desire is just as much, it's like our business is also a desire, right? It's also, it's a vision and a creation, just as much as, say, like having a baby is a desire. I think we often associate desire with like relationships or babies or those things.
Tropes.
But business, Yeah, exactly. But business is too a desire, and it's a current. And so what I love what you spoke to is like that journey, and how I teach it is that desire carves us. It carves us into who we need to be to have that desire. So what you're asking me to share is like the journey of how I got carved. Like what was the, and it's funny because it's all energetic, right? So it's like you get the calling, you feel the thing that's pulling you in a direction coming from your body. Again, it's not a thought-based thing. It's a felt experience of I feel this calling to go here or do this or create that. And so it comes from the body, and each step takes us to our next layer of expansion, and it's literally carving us. And so for me to get to very rooted in my system, to not having being able to pay my rent and all of those things. And the way that I see it is it's like um it's the internal mastery. So there is internal structure that's required from us. And again, that's an energetic experience. And for me, the practices really looked like feminine and body work, a lot of sexuality work, like really working with my eros and building my current so that I could expand more and hold more. Because again, life is energetic. So all that happened to me is that I say all that happened to me. What happened to me
All
was
that
I
happened to
went.
me was that I completely changed my life, and the end.
Exactly. I went from something very stable that allowed my insecurities to hide within it. And then once the stability had gone, because if life is a reflection of who we are, and there's also things like timings, all of those things, I had to really be with my worthiness pieces, my hiding pieces, the places where I didn't fully believe in myself, where I didn't want to back myself, where I felt like life should just come to me and things should just be easy, and those kind of things. Like I really had to work with a lot of, and when I say easy, I would say more like I could sit in my laziness and still receive. And that's what I meant when I said easy. I think alignment is ease, but you'll still meet your challenges for sure. And that's part of the design. And so I had to really be with a lot of the out of alignment energetics for me to start to build my power and build a really rooted, landed place. And then alongside me doing my internal work, I was really building my mastery. And I think that's something as well, is that um uh I'm not entitled to my gifts. I'm gifted them, but I get to work with them and harness them. And it's like if I was given a gift of dance, which I was, if I don't choose to cultivate that, then I'm not a dancer. I don't become a professional dancer just because I was gifted it.
Yeah.
And so I've been gifted the gift, we've spoken about this, but like of translation, and my voice is a really big part of my gift. Like I'm able to make things that aren't tangible, tangible. I can explain energetics really well. I can facilitate spaces really well, but I was gifted that, but I also had to
Work on
deepen my
it.
relationship to the mastery of it. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm just a facilitator and I just get to be that. I had to really practice it too. And so the humility of being a beginner, of, oh, I don't know everything about business. Oh, I don't know everything about facilitating and holding space. And I want to practice. And my one-to-one sessions, like my gift of being able to read energy is something I've deepened over 7, 8 years.
Right.
I was gifted it, sure, from a really young age, but I didn't practice it. And so my willingness to practice too. And so it's the internal and then also the devotion to the craft that has given me the anchoring in my system.
You spoke about the shame that you had around wanting and
Mm,
valuing wealth.
mm,
Um, I think that's very, very common for women. I don't often meet a man who is ashamed of wanting wealth or valuing wealth. Um, this is a feminine wound. That's fine. We all know it. We don't need to explain that. But I think that there's a really big challenge for a lot of women of they try to do the feminine thing, they try to like go in and have this business that aligns to them. It doesn't often work. And then they go back and they do the hustle or the overwork, or they go back and, do what they need to do. Um, for you, was it more around re- releasing the shame, or was it more around holding in the energy? Because I think what I'm hearing from you is actually you're much less about releasing, and you're much more about bringing in.
Yeah, beautiful. You've read it well. Yeah, I feel there's something about learning to have a container of our energy that allows us to hold a deeper sense of attunement and resonance. It's integrating the masculine ultimately. So it was definitely about me releasing my shame around money, but it was actually getting honest with my desire. The
Yeah.
shame was blocking me from like, oh, my desire is to live a really abundant and rich life.
Okay.
And the shame was that's wrong to want that. That there's some kind of because when I first started my journey, it was more about money than wealth. And money held a different shame than when I just got honest about like, I really want to be wealthy. Because wealth feels like it's an expansion of all areas of my life, where money felt like it was a very specific,
Number in the bank.
tangible.
Mm.
Exactly.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
wealth is about how do I live? What's the way I walk down the street? How do people relate to me?
Yes.
You can be very,
Yes.
very wealthy without money.
Totally. Totally. And then
Not
also
in a
getting
TV
honest with
version, but like in this version that you're talking about.
totally, but then also getting honest with myself that wealth was a tangible money thing, that I wanted to be able to live a specific way and I required money to be able to do that. And so it was both. And it's also fascinating because I think that abundance and wealth are two very different things.
Okay. I'll
The
buy it.
way I relate to them feels very different. Abundance to me is it feels to me like going to the markets every week and buying my fresh fruits and veggies and being able to go into the ocean and like living a life of gratitude, where wealth feels anchored in like a level of power. It's like,
Right.
cool, if you hold wealth, what are you willing to be responsible for in the physical? Abundance feels like overflow and gratitude and joy. It feels heart centered, where wealth to me feels like it comes from the solar plexus. Yes, it incorporates the pussy and the heart, but it feels deeper. It's like there's a responsibility piece within it of, I want to create. Like wealth feels like a deeper thing to hold than abundance. Abundance feels more like it's got flow. Does that make sense?
It does. The way that you explained it, this is how I understood it, was you sort of use gestures, and I know that some people won't see this, so I'm going to explain it. um, when you're talking
Yes.
about abundance being overflow, that actually means that it's not all coming to you. So it's coming to you and then through you and out. And so a lot of people who, when they're in abundance, like
Exactly.
how the example that you used of like going to the ocean for a swim, you're not taking the entire ocean with you. You're borrowing the ocean, you're using the ocean, you're in the ocean, and then you leave. The overflow of that water, if you had all of that water in your house, you would not be happy about that. So it's the overflow that you're not trying to contain, even because it's there for
Mhm.
all. It's a shared resource, and it's the access into that resource is your abundance.
Yes.
Wealth is far more uh, primarily yours that you may or may not share to choose out. But the dominion or the responsibility or the management of those resources are yours to manage and
Mhm.
to choose how you use them, or whatever you do with them. But that management and that responsibility is yours. So whether that looks like, you know, many houses or property, or whether that looks like, you know, running courses and holding women in containers, or whatever that manifests as, is irrelevant. It's the way in which you hold the container for that to exist under your personal energy.
Beautiful. Exactly. And I
Right.
think just going back to you spoke about like me being ruthless. I'm ruthless in responsibility.
Yes.
Like, I'm really passionate about people understanding the responsibility of what it requires to have the life that you want to have and also to be who you are.
Hmm.
I think so many people don't understand the responsibility of what it means to actually become your authentic self, that people just think it's like, oh, I just get to be whoever I want. And it's like, oh, no, 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 you actually don't get to run out your shadows and all your like childish behaviors and all of those kind of things. You're actually becoming responsible for the essence that wants to come through you. And I think that's what I'm really ruthless about is like, I think, and this is something I had to journey hardcore, is my naivety of what it means to live the life that I want to live and create what I want to create and have the business that I want to have and the wealth that I want to have. And I was like, oh, all of these things are asking more of me. I'm not asking more of them.
Right.
They're asking more of me. And that's what I'm like ruthlessly in service to, is how do we all become responsible, sovereign adults and like actually feel the responsibility of the gifts that we have and of the vision that's asked for us. And how do we, because it's not about me creating something so that I can live the life that I want to live. I've been asked to do something. I've
Mm,
been assigned a role. And so it's my responsibility to become that and become the embodiment of what it is that I'm teaching
mm,
and what it is that I'm like, what a disservice it would be for me to come on this podcast with you and then me get off the phone call and me not be any of that.
right.
What a delusion that would be. And so that's not me being responsible. That's me disserving you and all the people that are listening. It's creating fantasy. And so what I'm really passionate about, and this is where my ruthlessness comes in, and I've like gone on, my work is shadow work. So that's what I've been revealed is all the places I'm not in alignment. And so I am deeply passionate about us becoming responsible for what is ours to hold.
Yeah.
And that means our sexual energy. It means our erotic power. It means our essence. Like
Mm,
the like sweet, sweet gift of what it means to have the divine run through us. And that we're like little minions for God's creation. We're just like playing these roles, but the responsibility of that. And it's not just so that I can have what I want to have, it's so that I can live what's being asked of me. And it's such a different orientation.
yes.
Does that
Yes.
make sense?
Oh, yes. And this is part of what I was so excited to talk to you about today, because I think what happens when you're talking about, I love how you categorize abundance, because there's something, for example, there are so many abundance coaches that are, homeless or living in, tents. And that's not to show shame, but it's exactly what you were just talking about, is that you can say something without living it. And then to what
Mhm.
value are you, because all you're doing is making your system extremely stressed. You're getting
And
further.
all we do is contribute to the distortion that we're
Right.
already trying to clean up.
That's right.
There's so much distortion out there. And so if I'm just doing that, all I'm actually doing is contributing more to that. When we
Yeah.
don't need more people doing that because we see the repercussions of it, what happens to it when we continuously live out of alignment is all the wild things that are happening in the world that we see in the news and like these massive things. And so it really does take us to be in true honesty with ourselves. And I think that's the thing. It's like such an intimate relationship of, oh, I'm not that person. Can I just be honest?
I think the connection that I have to your ruthlessness is something that I'm reclaiming for myself. Because when
Mm.
we talk about the word ruthless, it has such a negative image, right? And I love that you're a kind of person that I can be like, you are ruthless and you felt my meaning, you know? Because
Yeah.
if somebody's, if somebody called me nice, that would be offensive to me. That would be like,
Mhm.
I have no understanding who you are. I have no idea where to place you. You don't stand for anything. You're not here for anything. And it's not about trying to be polarizing. It's that you innately are when you stand for a truer, coherent system of operation on the earth. You naturally repel those who do not want to do that work. You don't have to go out of your way to be polarizing. You innately are.
Mm.
The people that you're polarizing to are usually the people from your inner circle. They're usually from the people that you're, asking to hold you to the same accountability that you hold yourself, and them in return hold their selves accountable to their truth. And I think along the way, for me, the ruthlessness part came in is like, okay, do I need to soften it? Do I need to accept that ruthlessness doesn't need to be abrasive or doesn't need to be abrupt? Okay, that could be something that I could, make a little bit more accessible.
Mhm.
But the ruthlessness does not allow for that shift. Like even 1 degree shift out of who you are is not who you are. There is an element of binary.
Totally.
And
Totally.
and I accept that people are moving towards coherence. So there's some part of their system can be out of coherence, but the ultimate truth is to accept that if you are some parts of your life in coherence and some parts are not, that's not a coherent system. It's just not. You ca you can't
Totally.
that's like being, uh, uh, that's like being Sweden in the war, you can't fund the Nazis and the Americans and then come out and be like, "What? What did we do?" You have to choose who you be, and I think for me, the ruthlessness part of it has been extremely challenging because it's
Mm.
really asked me to be okay, um, with standing alone in that. And because I
Mhm.
wasn't, I had to. And because I wasn't, everything fell apart until I
Mhm.
to stand by myself. And when I didn't care any longer, when it was like, you cannot take anything more from me, you cannot hurt me anymore. I stand in this value system. I stand here and I know who I am and I know that I am prepared to die for this. Nothing
Mhm.
you anymore. Nothing. And then all of
Mhm.
a sudden, that initiation, it was like, click, please walk this way. And you're like, so literally like accepting death for this mission was what I needed to do. How many people are lining up for that? No, you will die. You will die. And for me, I just became a master of death. I became a master of death. And I I'm hearing from you I can actually stop preparing for the dishevelment. I can stop preparing for that next death and that next death and that next death because it is a form of survival. It's a very strange survival. And somehow you get really good at shedding and letting go and like being raw and being vulnerable and being truthful and honest with yourself. But there's a point, and I feel like this conversation is like my light bulb moment of like, but now turn it around. Now be all about bringing in, bringing in, bringing in.
Mm.
That's a really
Um,
that's a really beautiful opportunity for me here in this conversation of like, I don't think I don't think I'm being asked to let go. I don't need to die anymore. Like now rise. Now do the rise. Now do the coming back into rapture. But
mhm.
I'm sure that there was a moment for you as well where you got to turn it around, right?
Well, and I also think that we're in the dance of both always. It's
Yeah.
like we're always dying. And this is something that I've journeyed because I think I started this work because I thought that I wouldn't have to keep dying anymore. I've always had a really alchemical system from like quite a young age. I've had a very feminine system and I've always churned a lot through my system. And I didn't understand what it was when I was younger. And now I have like the language and the map and the understanding of what it is.
Mm.
And the more that I do this work, the more that I do understand that we are dying all of the time. And so many of my teachers have always said to me, you got to get good at dying and just accept that that's a part of it. But
Mm.
it's in the moments when we're not dying, like, how are we choosing to live?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how much like power, and again coming back to this ruthlessness, this word that seems to be present here, is like my ruthlessness is because I know that I am the person that's going to bring my vision to life, and
Right.
I have this deep yearning in my life to experience my full expression, in the sense of like I want my life to be a reflection of exactly who I am. I want my house to feel like it's mine, and where I live to feel like it's mine, and all my friends to be of deep resonance. I want my full expression, not just who I am, but also my life as an expression, to be so fully mine. And I have a yearning for that,
Mm.
that I'm like, I'm not going to stop. Yeah, I don't know where my commitment to my work came to, but like I said, I understand my assignment and I'm continuously reminded of that it's like, it's a choiceless choice. I've been asked to do it, and there's nothing about it that I can't not do, and then within that, I choose it too.
So how do you bring your eros daily into this? So by the way, when your teacher said, "Are you have to get really good at dying?" Are you good at dying? Is that your skill now too? Okay, cool.
Oh, I feel like sometimes I am. I had a big heartbreak last year, and that was not something that I was very good at dying with. It was like, yeah, it taught me a lot of places where I struggled to surrender and I didn't want to let go. And um, yeah, that I think that was a big initiation for me of uh, being humbled, but also, this certainty that I had of like, I knew that this is what I wanted, but maybe God wants something different for me. And am I okay with that? And I got to be with all the ways that actually I'm really not okay with it. And that
Mm.
was something that I was going to say about, we're all on the path, in the sense of we're all getting like, none of us are perfect. We're all being initiated in the ways. And I think having grace, like this is something with my students, but also with myself, is that cohesion and the coherence that you were speaking to. It's also about having so much grace around like where we're not fully there yet. And that maybe we're there in some places, and then other places it's like, "Oh, actually, I can't let go here yet." And, like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to surrender to this one. This one is, like, whooping my ass,
Yeah.
and I don't know how to surrender, but I'm gonna try. And,
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna keep letting it work me, and I'm gonna keep opening my system so that I'm not fighting it, so that I can, like, try to be. And so I
That's
think
that's
that's
the
some.
part, right? You need to actually accept that your nervous system is gonna take a little bit longer than your mental, or that your
Yes.
desire sometimes, and so working with the physical body, especially if you've got this huge desire and you just wanna run and go and do it, and you're, like, being slowed down, and I think that's some part of the feminine embodiment gives you a lot of natural grace of being like, things take time to gestate.
Take time. They take time. Yeah, and I think so many of us, like, I've had a body of work that I've wanted to bring through for coming up to 2 years, and I'm like, "When can I bring this thing through?" You know? And
Usually
it's
not
just
in a
not
snake
ready
year.
yet. Yeah, definitely not in a snake year.
If anyone's been kicking their butt like, "I did nothing last year," it's like, "Grayscale.
I did
Great.
nothing yet last
Tell me
year.
what's
Yeah,
happening last year."
yeah. How do I bring Eros into my days? Was that the question?
Yeah, because I think I guess the holistic we're doing so many complex like kind of things laid on the top of each other, right? You're doing the shadow work, you're coming into the coherence, you're accepting that it takes time, you're bringing in, so some things are flow abundance, some things are wealth holding on. It's like, okay, we have to come back into a coherent alignment with the earth's natural ways of doing things. So we've got seasons, we've got days, we've got cycles, and we exist in all of that. And when you're attuned to this masculine linear system and you're a fully feminine person living, which is much more natural and much more harmonic to the earth, it's going to be very mentally challenging for you to live in that life and go, how do I make sense of this? How do I deconstruct this in a way that I actually know how to tap into? So I know that a lot of women, for example, they're working with their cycles. You know, that's a great first step to get you out of a
Yeah.
linear way. But your cycle is connected to not only every other womb cycle, every other natural system, the planetary, all of this happening. But then you've got the collective consciousness that's happening at the same time. And if you're just like one person going, I'm supposed to go and do my 9 to 5, and on the weekends, I'm going to do my spiritual work, that's a really hard place to live in. And so
Mm.
unraveling from all of that, accepting that you go and do the work that gets you out of the prisons, you do the deaths, you do the no's, you do all of the releasing. When you're sitting in that place of going, okay, now I create from this, there has to be an acceptance and there has to be an awareness of which world and which dynamic and which energy do you go and recreate your life from. Because if you go and do it in a world that is never going to be supportive to your energetic structure being in your feminine embodiment, that's an aspect of consideration as well, because that's you're never going to be coherent to that system. It's out of alignment. So in the context
Mhm.
complexity of the world that we're living in. Plus, we need physical resources, plus, your work doesn't take part in a vacuum and you are a complex being. Can you give us this complex answer of almost impossibility? That's this suffocation that I feel in women, right?
Yeah. So for clarity, you want me to speak to people that are in 9 to 5s, or
No,
that what that transition looks
no,
like?
your transition for you in the way that you had to do your transition in all of that. It's not like sit yourself in a room and now you're on your bed and you're being eros, and like as long as you never go out into the world again, it's all dead, you know, because that's a lot of the teachings that people hear about, as if this happens in a vacuum, as this happens on a retreat. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you bring that back into life? How do you live here?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's funny because I feel like retreats, what they're so good for is they're such a great compression system where you can really burn through a lot of layers. You can dissolve a lot and activate a lot, and you can walk in one person and leave another. Like they really create that space and they really rewire a lot of things. But where we fall short is the integration, right? People come in, they have these massive experiences, but they don't know how to take what they've learned. And I say this a lot to my women. It's very easy for us to touch our divinity and like our openness and our eros in our practice. But then if we're not embodying that out in the world, if we're still shut down, if we're still closed, if we're still fearful of people coming to talk to us and all of those things, it's not actually changing anything. So the imprint in the practice is how do I access what I access in my practice. So like when I'm in my bedroom, in on my mat, in my practice for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes, how do I take what I've touched and actually take that out into the world? And that's the thing. So for me, it was a lot of like referencing my system. I think one of the things about this practice is that you can become very attuned to your system. And I just started to see, what do I touch in my practice? And then who am I out in the world? And how do I keep bridging that gap? how do I keep bringing the openness and the availability and the suppleness and all of those kind of things, and then also understanding that I am a spectrum. I, as a woman, am a full spectrum. So, like, with some of my closest friends, it's like, who am I in that, like, really intimate
Mm.
place? And then who am I, when I'm, like, facilitating, and then who am I on dates? And I think the awareness is starting. My biggest opening and my biggest journey has been my opening. So that's what I'm always tracking, is like, how open do I feel in this environment? How open do I feel with this person? How connectable am I here? How available am I? And that was like one of my highest values, because I knew that as I became more open, I was experiencing more life. And that's what I wanted, is I wanted to experience more life. And so it's like, my practice is, how do I keep opening? How do
Mm.
I stay receptive to the experience in front of me? Whether it's like an argument with a partner, a disagreement with somebody, like my mum or something like that. Like, how am I responding to that? And then that is, and then there's another way of looking at it, as like, I run a feminine led business, so it's run through creativity and inspiration and eros and my turn on. And I have a lot of space in my day for me to be able to, like, I don't work loads of hours, and that's a conscious choice. I don't, yeah, I, um, like, on some level, I'm always working, because it's like, I always have a right arm. It's like, I can't just put these things down. I can't just get rid of my legs. Like, my business is part of who I am. So on some level, I'm always working, but like, practically, I'm not. So I have a lot of spaciousness to experience my essence. And so that is what's the imprint of my work. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think that I think what I'm hearing from you, it's a consistent theme throughout everything that you say, is I know what my values are, and therefore that informs me who I am across any um it's not that you're changing who you are, but that that you're appropriately the part of you for that moment, because we are, you know, multidimensional and multi-surface beings, and that who I am with a child is naturally appropriate versus who I am with you on this podcast. It's not that I've changed who I am, but that an aspect of me is more appropriate. But the values of who I be and who dictate my life, not foundation, but even the execution of my life, are very clear. They're very well known to me. And as a result, they're very well known to everyone else. And you said something earlier of like, if you come into a party that I'm holding, you will know who I am and what I value based on the people in that room,
Mm,
based
mm.
on the activities that I do while I'm in a city or country or place. And what I really like about your answer is it doesn't really matter what the external world is doing, and it doesn't really matter what those structures are, because who I be in my value system and how I choose to live and what I demand and command is this.
And that is feminine embodiment.
Mm.
Because feminine is living from the internal. It's not about being soft and submissive and sexy. It's about being anchored in who you are, where a masculine orientation is, it's focused on the external. So a masculine orientation would be, I will behave this way so that this experience happens. I'll dress up as this person so you see me in that way. That's what a masculine orientation is. It's about the external, where a feminine orientation is, it's about your embodiment. It's that your values and you being in alignment with them are actually at the front, and that who you are is authentic to who you are
Mm.
and who you be. Yeah,
Are
that's
you
actually a beautiful thing, because you know, this feminine embodiment space that we have, that, like, not to dismiss it at all, but it's a lot of like, "Ah," and, like, a lot of like, "How can I be pleasure-based, and how can I be more soft?" And, like, that's not my experience of the feminine at all. That's one aspect of the feminine, where the feminine is like a multitude of experiences. But if you have to be something to be accepted, to be liked, to be loved, then you're instantly in a masculine response, because what you're doing is performative. Where the feminine energetic is, right? Where the masculine is, like, if we split it, the feminine is the body and the masculine is the ego, it's the identity. And so that,
Mm.
and I think identity is important. And so how do I embody who I am and then allow my masculine to actually serve and almost like enhance my feminine
Yeah.
essence, like who I am as an expression, as an archetype.
So the
Does that make
masculine
sense?
within you is about serving your own feminine. Just as it should be
Exactly.
external to you, that's how it should be set up internally. So you
Exactly.
set up the internals of your embodiment business, so to speak, and then the structures and the whatever else of the masculine serve that.
You got it. So it's like I get the creative hit, I feel the inspirations of something, I feel turned on, I feel alive. I'm like, I want to bring this thing out. That feels epic. I can't wait for the women to have access to this. And then the masculine is like, okay, babe, like, how are we going to do that? Like, what do we need to do? Okay, let's do the landing pages. Let's find out, like, let's put it in your diary, all of these things. And it's supporting that to come alive, as opposed to the other way around, which is, I want to do this idea. How can I do this? Let's pump my creativity to get it out into the world, which is just quite extractive. And I end up burnt out and exhausted and tired and all those things. So the orientation for me is like, I live from my feminine. Yeah.
Lots of people decide they want to make a certain amount of money per year, and then they work backwards from there to make that happen. I'm hearing from you as well that perhaps the way that you would do it would be that your business would deliver you an idea and inspiration. Of course, money as an idea and a concept not even there yet. You create that, then the structures around you put that into place. So where does money factor in at the journey? Is it right at the end, or is it an outcome that's not even considered, or is it something at the beginning? Like, how do you imagine you wanted to double the revenue of your business? How would you do that?
So if I wanted to double the revenue of my business, I'd have to be honest about, can I become double the, like, can I create space for double the capacity in my reality? Am I willing to work double the amount of hours? Am I willing to show up with double the amount of energy? Who do I need to become to create double? Where do I need to anchor, commit more, devote more? How do my habits need to change? Does waking up in the morning, checking my social media first thing serve me? No. Okay, cool. Do I need to swap out my coffee for something more gentle? Yes. Like, what are the things that I'm actually doing? Because there's no way that essentially I'm making the amount of money that I'm making because I'm the person that energetically matches that.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. One of the easy ways that I would look at, like, doubling my money is, okay, cool, where can I up my prices? Like, where am I ready to stretch into for all the work that I'm already doing? Where am I prepared to increase my prices for those things? Where do I feel like I've got more value? I've got more insight. I've got deeper wisdom. Where do I feel more embodied in what I'm actually doing? And how can I create more, like, put a higher value on that? So everything that I already have, I would increase that. And then, yeah, like I said, it would be a journey of becoming, because it's not just as easy as like, oh, I just want to make this amount of money. It's actually, who am I to hold that money and have that money? Am I already responsible for the money that I'm making? Because if I'm not, why on earth would I be given more?
Hmm.
So that would be that. And then, so I look at it from that side. I do have like ideas of figures that I want to make, but I also think I'm always prepared for that to never to like either me make more or make less. It's just like I would love to make that amount of money and I have that idea. But yeah, I don't get to choose that. And I'm sure you've experienced that before where you've wanted to like make a certain amount of women come and work with you or like do a certain amount of podcasts in a certain amount of time. And we don't actually choose that.
It's kind of easier when you've already got a business to increase it, but you went from, I'm like living on handouts and sticky tape, putting this all together. So, how did you get your system ready to hold anything? Like, if you're holding negative and you've got nothing coming in, or you're owing other people,
Yeah.
what's that 0 to 1 point? Like, how do you make your first dollar or your first $100? Like that, just that moment of like, okay, because that's the hard part.
It is the hard part, and I also think for me, there were so many factors. I don't know, I'd actually love to hear from you, but for me, there was so many factors and playing things that needed to move for me to start making I could make money, I just couldn't consistently make money. I couldn't consistently magnetize clients. So some of it was structural stuff of like, okay, cool, how do I create structures and like payment plans so that I'm not just by like making to go out, so that I'm actually know that next month I've already got this much coming in and I actually know that I've got this much coming in until December. Does that make sense? So like how do I have the structures to support me a bit further out? So that's one thing. But then it was like quite like a pivotal moment for me. I left Australia. I did my first in-person 7-day retreat experience in Costa Rica. And that just like blew my system open. And from that, I managed to start making more money.
And
So
you
there was quite a few
you facilitated
things
or you were a participant?
I facilitated.
Got it.
So after like 2 years of studying with my previous teacher, and a specific body of work. And then COVID happened. So we weren't doing in-person experiences. You couldn't do those. And so it was like when they just started to open the gates, you could leave Australia, but you couldn't get back in at this point. And I was like, I think I'm complete on my time in Australia. I was struggling. And I went back to London. I stayed with my mum for a month. And then I went and taught this experience in Costa Rica. And that just like opened a lot of doors for me. I moved to Mexico. Yeah, there was like a series of events. So again, I think a lot of it is alignment, right? And
Was it that
where
you
is
were
the
doing
energy?
that work though? You were coming into acceptance of that identity and then the embodiment of that, and then it sort of like tapped into place and then boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I do think, a lot of our work, and again, I'd love to hear from you, but a lot of our work is like in the everyday. It's in the menial, it's in the mundane, it's in the nitty-gritty. But then we do have these big experiences where like something opens and you go straight through it and you're in another timeline.
Yes.
Like that kind of thing. And then again, it's like all the everyday and the nitty-gritty and the menial and the boring. It is like this work it's in the everyday. It's not just when I go and have these peak experiences, but then I do think we have these big moments that are like breakthroughs.
Yeah. So hearing from me, I mean, which life?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that how I make or manifest money has been really different at every point in my journey as well. Like when I was in the era of love and light, I found it really hard to make and sustain not only wealth but money and provision. Um, and I think
Yeah.
that for me at that time, that was one of the most important points in time where everyone on the internet and everybody on like the the networks that I was being introduced into or like given like this is truth, accept it. it was really hard for me, particularly because I came from the kind of childhood where my own mind and my own belief system wasn't given time and space to be valued or listened to or um, experimented. Like I wasn't given agency in that way. And so when I came to
Mm.
this work in my sort of early to mid 20s, I, you know, I was still so young and so accepting that external people held the answers to my life and that you needed to pay to access
Mm.
that wisdom and that information.
Mm.
And it took a long time. Actually, it took another like crying on the bathroom floor moment to really be like, am I going to like keep giving my power and my agency and my life to people who have absolutely like there's no consequence to them. They got paid, you know, whether I change my life or not. And like every time you do a course or every time you do anything and they're like results are not guaranteed, these testimonials are for what happened to these person, you know, your results will be your results. And if it's like, of course that's true. Like, of course I accept that. But then so why am I going on your course? You know, why would I do that? And so I stopped doing anything. And the one thing that's consistent with every
Mm.
time I up level my life is I stop doing other people's stuff. I stop listening to everybody else. The most recent upgrade that I got, I had an ear infection. Was not an ear infection because I went on 5 courses of antibiotics and it never cleared it up. Do you know what cleared it up? Like stop. I'm not listening to anybody else. I'm not listening to what you have to say, what they have to say. I'm listening to me and to my blueprint and to my personal pathway. And I think that the my experience of money, uh, my experience of money is very unique to other people. That it's not always a translatable lesson. My system's so far in the future.
Mm.
So far in the future that I already have an ability to live very abundantly without any money. I'm not trying to say to do that to other people, but I think that when I found like where my access point is in the future, and I could see that and understand that a lot of the time I was like, okay, well, don't bring the not need for money into the present because you still live in a present that needs it, but bring in the knowledge about how we co-create and how we coexist outside of money. And what I learned about was wealth and the various different kinds of wealth. So, for example, inspiration and
Mm.
ideas are a
Mm.
huge aspect of wealth in my system's understanding of how to create communication. If I know how to ideate and imagine and then communicate that, I can create whatever I want. Oh, are you there?
I'm here now. You froze.
What did you last hear?
I heard up to where you are in the future and you don't recommend that to other people, but how do you bring those two together?
Yeah, so um my system just naturally receives information from a very distant point. It's not, it took me, you know, I'm nearly 40 years old. Like it took me that many years to understand, oh, what I think, feel, know, and believe is early. It's not here because
Mhm.
I was constantly trying to understand why what I think of being true isn't here. And so it made a lot of sense for me to work in venture capital,
Mm.
in, you know, future focused companies, because for me, it's like, finally, found a group of people that live in the future. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm,
And
mm,
that's, like, very comfortable for me to be in a whole industry of people that are 10, 20, 30, 40 years into the future, and they see it as if they're talking to you and I about what's happening on the news. So that was, first of all, understanding your energy type, because if you're somebody who sources your energy from the
mm,
past and you're trying to, like, relate to and collaborate with somebody who lives in the future, um, that's really hard. There's like, and I married a guy that lives in the past and, like, tries to create. And because I found it so unsafe to live in the world where my gift of tapping into the future is weird, I naturally gravitated to somebody who's like, people feel very comfortable with people who know things from the past and talk about them and bring that up. And I was like, oh, that's safety. Like, I can cling on to that for safety. But what happened? All my creativity stopped. All my capacity stopped.
mm,
I stopped being.
mm.
So I got, and I have consistently been with men who love to cling to the past and love to cling to that older, like, stable, like, steadfast kind of energy. Like, this is where we've been, this is where we're going. And then if we linearly look into the future, that might be where it is. But it's like, it's a very linear, it's a very steadfast way. And my way is like, but that's the future. This is where we are. All we do is collapse it into being. And I was in and amongst people who were like, that's insane. You're crazy, which gave me a strange sense of nervous system safety because that's how I was raised.
Mm, mm,
So I guess my biggest advice about wealth creation or money creation or creation in general is understand, how do you create? How does your system create? Because
yeah,
if you are, and so for example, if you're an erotic creator and you're creating from your body and it's not about a time point, and that's a present creator, right? You're creating in the moment, in the body, and you're moving that energy in a way that accesses any time space reality into who you be in here and now. And that's fine. It's not about one being better than the other. And past creators, by the way, people who access energy from the past, that doesn't mean that they can't create into the future. It means that the energy is pulled from there. So they're improving on things that were, um,
yes,
you could be improved upon. And, those are the incremental changes. Like, that's how we get electrical systems that are better improved and all of these kinds of things. But it doesn't do the disruption business. It doesn't do the let's burn this down and build something new. And it also doesn't do the alternative business, which is, more where I feel like you're in the whole, like, it actually doesn't matter what the world's around. I'm going to shift the axis of me into the earth that I want to be in and align to, and let it all happen.
mhm,
And so each one of us has this very unique blueprint that we're here. And this is the entire conversation. It's like, if you are living outside of the alignment of who you be, you can't create anything. So for me, it's like, know your creation style, know your body energetics. Your biotechnology system is so advanced. It's not like
yeah,
I'm not teleporting into the future. It's that my energetics are aligned to an energy that's in front of me versus behind me versus. And so now, after all these years of knowing that, who I be in the room with, who I bring into my company, who I bring in, as my guest, all of these kinds of things are really, really important for my system to know. I'm either going to buzz up and, like, create like madness, or I'm going to shut down and nothing's going to happen. And so my answer to how do you generate income is, where are you pulling it from? Where are you creating from?
mm,
Because for me,
mhm,
I'm in alignment with, that's my future, and I can share that wealth with all of the companies that I used to be investing in, because it's like, yeah, let me just read the energy of the future and tell you what happens, and then let's put that into the business plan. um it's so much easier for me. But if somebody from the past was trying to do my job, they would be looking at, okay, well, these are the these are the issues that though, that the industry's trying to solve. How do we improve on those particular issues? And that's not necessarily a hard thing for them to do, because that's where their mind is, and that's where the majority of people are. That's why we write business plans in this way. But if you're someone who doesn't work in that way, you've either got to be really comfortable with making zero friends and a lot of, ruffled feathers, or you got to be like stand the test of time and be a genius. But that genius never happens in the moment. There are no such things as a genius in the moment that don't have big publicity and don't have, big. And, before you come at me and be like, Elon Musk, yeah, let's talk about him another day. But I think the point about genius is it's got to be about, if you're a feminine, futuristic kind of creator, then that world has to be about how do we all connect together. And I think that women like you who are working with Eros, and women like me who are working in like crafting out space for that to be the reality, we just like vibe really well together, because it's like we can't do one without the other.
Totally. Yeah, and I love that you said, like, you know, really knowing your system, and I think that's such an important part. You spoke about, like, not taking on other people's information, and, like, I can't listen to what you're saying and, like, no, I'm not hearing what you're saying, and I just need to figure it out for myself, and I think we all have very, that relationship and establishment of who we are, so that we can then receive information from others and say, "No, that isn't true for me, but I hear what you're saying. No, I hear what you're saying, but that's not right." And like that foundational relationship of, this is how I create wealth, this is how I bring my vision to life, this is my process, and that individualistic, and it goes all the way back to what I was saying at the beginning. It's like, as a teacher and as a guide and as a mentor, who am I to say that isn't your vision? I'm only going to work with what I feel is there, and how do we get you to the next step? So if that is your true vision, how do we get you there?
Mm.
How do you become the person so that you can birth that, right? And so I love that you said knowing your own internal system and your own internal navigation is so important, because it's like you want to receive information and guidance from people that get your system and that like you truly resonate with, so that it can be like, yeah, this is a resonance and that can excel me in my preparation to get there, as opposed to diminish and stifle my life force and stifle my expansion and stifle what I believe.
I think things like the gene keys and human design and astrology, they hold information for you. But again, if it's information,
Mhm.
and this is like one of the challenges that for me has been my personal journey, is like, especially because I'm such a communicator, I'm a triple air sign. I have a faster energy system as well. Like things happen very quickly in my life. And so it's very easy for me to be here. Dropping in is
Mhm.
the work.
Mhm.
Dropping in is the work.
Mhm.
That is,
Mhm.
which is interesting because I am like, my body is an antenna. I can feel everyone and
Mm.
everything. And so
Mm.
it's always a challenge for me to be in the body, because it's like I'm trying to know my own system, not everybody else's. And as I build up those, like, it's not just about boundaries, because it doesn't matter if that person is physically with me or on the other side of the world, right? Like, I can put all the physical boundaries in place. These are energetic boundaries. These are mental boundaries. Like, I know who's going to call me before the phone rings, kind of thing. That's a level of mastery that actually you have to go through yourself to have the solitude for bringing
Totally.
in the creation.
100%. 100%. And that's also, I think you said this at the beginning, like it's a lonely path. It's like, and the loneliness is so that we can hear
Yeah.
ourselves.
In many
Mm.
ways, I think the greatest, like you were talking about the gifts that you have into, because our internal character traits and gifts and talents that we have are a form of wealth, right? Are a form of what we need. Your resources are so internal, but we've been living in this masculine world of like, we need money to make something happen. And one of the things I used to always work with when I was working a lot with female founders, we would lay out what they need. And my favorite exercise was always to be like, okay, so what do you think you need in order to get this thing done? And it would always be like, oh, I'd need X millions of dollars to do this. And so within like 2 or 3 hours, it was so clear that with no more money than they already had, or maybe even not any at all, they could get the thing done. And that's by finding a resource, as in a network, reaching out to people to ask, you know, asking with an embodied power is one of the most powerful
Mm,
things a woman can do. Because if you
mm,
ask to set up a network of women, what you're now doing is actually working within the feminine architecture of creation. Honeybees, honeybees. That's like everything I base my my creation design on is create hives. Those hives are cohesive. They are coherent with each other. They are humming
yeah.
at a level of creation that a very harmonic resonance. If you can find bees humming and record that music and work to that, you will increase your productivity so much. But it's like
Mm,
when you tap out of I need money and you tap into this is the outcome that I want, and then you bring that up to the next level of this is the outcome that would change the landscape for X million women. This is how we all work together. Now you're inviting people into a dream. Now you're inviting people into a vision. They have agency within that. So you were saying before, I need to be aware that other people need to do my dream because it's too small if it's you're the only one who can do it. And so shifting it out from I just need money into I need this network of army of women who can do this. Now you have a movement.
totally. And, ultimately, money is a byproduct of the alignment. So it's like if I'm serving something that's honest and true, I don't need to worry about that. It will just keep coming. And it's really beautiful. I said to one of my best friends the other day, she was asking me a question, and I said to her, we're doing the mission together. It's like we're doing it together. We all need to be doing it because we can't carry it alone. And I don't want to carry it alone. So, and that brings up like, this is like why journeying sisterhood wounds and all of that kind of stuff is so important, because it's like when we understand that the mission is at the forefront, jealousy doesn't have time to live, comparison doesn't have time to live, me thinking about like, oh, they're doing it, why aren't I doing it, and I'm more talented than them. It's like, no, 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 my vision has just become so so focused that I don't have time for that, and I need you to be on board so that we can all go together.
And when you recognize that someone else is doing incredible work that you could do or wish you were doing, it's like you can celebrate that because it's like, oh my God, I knew that this was powerful. Like I knew that this was important. Like, yes, let's do this. Hey, how can I help you amplify your mission on this? We be working together? Can I connect you to anybody? Can we create
Mhm.
where all of us come together? Is this a festival? Is this a celebration? Is this an exhibition? Like, where are we going with this? Are we touring the world? And all of a sudden, two women who are embodied in their own gift, talent, and contribution to the world having a conversation, that amplifies. Two women
Totally.
embodied and in competition, they take each other down.
100%. And the beautiful thing is that we're all doing the mission together, but nobody's doing it how I'm doing it.
No,
Because
because you're
otherwise
you.
I wouldn't be required.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, yeah, we're all doing the mission together. Yes. And if I'm not doing my part, then it's also missing the key.
That's right.
So it's both, right? It's like I'm uniquely me, and the medicine that comes through me is uniquely in a specific way, and also we're doing it together, and I need you to be part of this.
That's right. It's that thread in the tapestry, and you will notice that that thread is missing if it's not there. The tapestry's not complete.
Totally.
But you're not the entire
Totally.
tapestry either. Your coordinates. And one of the things I'm gonna go back to what I said to you when I was like picking up what you were really good at, and like I was like, oh my God, your ruthlessness, it's so loving, it's like so powerful, is that if two women or many women can sit together and share the codes that we've unlocked for ourselves with each other, you cut down my work. I don't have to go and like solve every single part of me. Like I share the codes that I've unlocked. You've shared the codes that you've unlocked. We talked about that from, where we land on the earth. Those codes are unlocked as well. And it's like so important for us to connect even virtually in this way that the constellation all comes together and the pieces all fit together, because we don't have time. We're just like, we don't want to be here for
We
the next
don't.
millennia. Like,
Totally. Yes.
and we're not our grandmothers. We don't have to be in competition. Like we've, somebody said, oh, I really want to be part of the second wave of feminism. I was like, second wave? What are you talking about? We're up to like the fifth or sixth. Like, there's no feminism anymore. This is like feminine embodiment. Like, I don't know what the hell. If you're still
Mhm.
at the second wave of feminism, like, I wish you well, but I really would encourage you to come and join us. It's a lot easier up here.
A lot easier, and also just like that was a very masculine movement,
Yeah, well,
it was very masculine, and it was very devoid of the masculine. They rejected the masculine externally, so became the internal masculine. And what my work is so in service to union, internal union, external union. It's like we're doing it together. There is no like patriarch and matriarch. It just is where I'm going. We're all in synergy together with feminine principles at the front.
oh my goodness. I could talk to you for the rest of my life. It's so beautiful. I love your devotion. I would love for
Mm.
you to just describe as we end, like the work that you do specifically with women, what you're offering at the moment, why you're in Australia, and where people can find you.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. So I'm actually running a retreat in Margaret River that starts on the 20th of February, and there's 2 spaces left. So that's why I'm here. I'm running a 7-day in-person experience. And then I teach a lot of this work. So I have a container called Pulse, which is all about you being carved by your desire. And it's really a map to your desire and where it's taking you, and you living a life from your desire. And then I feel another container that I serve is relevant called Woman. No, not Woman, Queen. And Queen is all about, I do one called Woman too, but it's not, it's more about the erotic pulse of who we are. But Queen is about feminine led leadership and service. And I feel like we've touched on a lot of that, but I do an array of frequency work and feminine work that you can find via Instagram or via my website.
And what's your website and your Instagram?
Melody Lubin. So melodylubin.com is my website, and Melody Lubin is my Instagram.
Thank you so much for today. I was not keeping an eye on the time because I was so locked in on you. We have talked for way longer than I thought we would, but I'm so grateful. And I'm sure that everyone listening is just like going to eat this up. And I can't wait to meet you next week, which is going to be so fantastic, and experience your work for the first time. So I'm so grateful. Melody, thank you so much for your time, for your grace,
Mm.
wisdom, and your contribution to shifting the axis of this planet into a more human centric, embodied, fulfilling world for all of us. So I am so grateful, not just
Mm.
for this, but for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your invitation, for your contribution. Yeah, I've loved speaking to you and I can't wait to connect. We're going to Roots Festival next weekend, an
Yeah,
all women's festival. It's a beautiful vision. And so, yeah, I can't wait to see you.
amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I really hope that you enjoyed that conversation with Melody. For me, there's so much to take away, but I think it's really how do you come so ruthlessly into your own truth and continuously ask yourself, hold yourself and your life in accountability to what what it is that you're actually living, and your external life gives you exactly that answer. And if that's not the life that you want to be living, you need to accept that changes need to be made internally. And I think that we know that cerebrally, but if we want to continue to upgrade and continue to come into greater and greater authenticity and greater truth, then we must continue to make those changes. Um, I think the other thing that I really walked away with for me personally was we can get as good as we can at letting go and uncreating, but how do we bring it in? How do we create? How do we stamp in the desire? And how do we be carved by our desire? And I think that's something that I've been good at knowing. I've always said, Michelangelo, when he created David, and he was asked, how did you know how to create David? And he simply said, I just took away that which was not David, and David was there. And I've always approached my life in that way. That which isn't there for me, that isn't my truth, I can take it away. But now I'm wondering, and I'm really questioning, so did David need to hold the desire? Did he need to hold the eros, the erotic self? The truth of him and the commanding of the life that he wanted to live in order to be found? Was it not so passive that David was just revealed, but that David was energizing himself first to be found? And I think that's what's really coming up for me in this conversation is the more that we can activate the truth of us and the desire of us and let our desire show us who the form of who we be, and then let go, I think that would bring my personal identity activation points in my life would become bigger because of that. So I'm very grateful to Melody. I think that was a really interesting, long but interesting conversation, and I'm really, really grateful. I hope you got something out of it too. And as always, follow us and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and listen every Friday for a new release. Have a great day.